Guys, Yamoshi is going to pass on her position as Goddess of Destruction to Goku, but will he accept it? Well, let's see that now. But first, leave your like. We'll hit 3,000 likes as soon as this goal is reached. I'll bring the next episode in the sequence and of course subscribe to the channel. Well, that said, let's get started. In the 7th universe. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely in one of the large cities on planet Earth, it was possible to see that a large part of the city was destroyed, and the cause of all that destruction was Hercules, who had arrived in the city to absorb the energy of the living beings that lived there, so that he could recover his own energy. However, his plan had been a little frustrated by Vegeta, who had arrived at the scene, and the Saiyan Prince was very angry since Trunks was in the city and had tried to face Hercules with Android and Deg 18, but unfortunately both ended up losing the fight against the evil Saiyan who beat up Trunks, which made Vegeta angry and made him go to the city precisely to face Hercules. Yamoshi's eldest son, the Prince of the Saiyans, was very angry that his son had been defeated, and that pleased Hercules because just by looking, the evil Saiyan knew that Vegeta was stronger than Trunks and Android Deg 18, and that left his Saiyan blood excited for a good fight. Android and Deg 18 said, "Thanks for your help, Vegeta. This guy would probably have drained all my energy if you hadn't arrived in time. I would have lost my life." Spoke Android Deg 18, thanking the Prince of Saiyans for saving her life moments ago. Vegeta said, "Don't confuse things, woman. I came here to see my son's situation, and I was irritated to see what this worm did to Trunks, so I attacked him. Whether you live or die, it doesn't matter, but I can't let Hercules absorb your energy and become stronger, because if Hercules could, he would become more dangerous like Kakarot said Vegeta with his back to Android Deg 18 while looking in the direction of Hercules, who was in the middle of the wreckage of a building. Android Deg 18 thought, "I'm not very surprised to hear these words from Vegeta. After all, he and I are not friends or anything similar. In the best case scenario, we are allies and nothing more. But I have to agree with Vegeta. If I saw my daughter hurt, I would be very angry, and from what I remember, anger is an excellent ally for Saiyans, as strong emotions increase their powers even for a few moments." Android Deg 18 thought to herself as she looked at Vegeta's back and saw that he was very angry. He just wasn't showing it much. Hercules spoke. "Finally, I was imagining that only that Son Goku guy was strong enough to make me excited to fight, but you also seem to be strong, and by your hair, you must also be a Saiyan. If I'm not mistaken, it must be the one they call Vegeta, the so-called Prince of the Saiyans. I hope your Majesty doesn't mind my manners because I'm not someone who will kneel down for you," said Hercules as he got up and left the wreckage of the building that he had previously been thrown by Vegeta. Vegeta said, "You should have gone to another planet to recharge your energy, but you had the unfortunate idea of coming to this city, and you had an even worse idea of hurting my son, and that's why you won't leave this city with life," said Vegeta before raising his energy, causing some golden rays to surround his body, along with a dark blue aura. Hercules said, "Let's see if you are strong enough to carry out this threat, Prince of the Saiyans," said Hercules before raising his energy, making black rays surround his body, along with his dark red aura. Vegeta said, "Hey 18, you can still stand, right?" Vegeta asked, looking sideways at the blonde android. Android Deg 18 spoke, "This monster drained a lot of my energy, but I can still stand and fight if necessary," said Android Deg 18 as she approached Vegeta to help him, but the Saiyan raised his hand, preventing the android from getting closer to him. Vegeta said, "I don't need your help to deal with an insolent worm like this, Hercules. Since you can fight, you should also be able to take my son and go to the Capsule Corporation. I recommend that you send your husband to the Capsule Corporation too, together with your daughter. There they will be safe enough," said Vegeta before lowering his arm and returning to face Hercules, who was stretching for that battle while his energy gradually increased. Android Deg 18 got angry upon hearing what Vegeta had said, and when she was about to say something, the Saiyan looked at the android in a serious and cold way at the same time. Vegeta said, "Don't get me wrong, but this is a battle between Saiyans, and you are not strong enough to be at least useful in a fight against this worm, because he is millions of times stronger than you, and if Hercules really wants to finish you, he will, so do yourself a favor and get out of here and take Trunks with you." Vegeta said in a serious and authoritative manner to Android 18, who sighed and obeyed the Prince of Saiyans, taking Trunks and flying out of the place quickly. Hercules said, "Have you finished talking to the hot blonde, or do you want to take your loser son home?" Hercules asked in a mocking tone to the son of the Saiyan prince, who was irritated by Hercules' comment. Vegeta sighed and then advanced towards Hercules, who did the same thing as Vegeta. Hercules, when approaching Vegeta, had to dodge a punch from the Saiyan prince. Vegeta saw that his first blow ended up missing its target. The Saiyan performed a kick from above and aimed at Hercules' shoulder, but the evil Saiyan ended up holding Vegeta's leg and twisted it, causing the Saiyan to be in pain, but Vegeta ended up concentrating his aura on his legs, increasing the resistance of one of them, and with the other, he ended up kicking Hercules in the face, who didn't feel as much pain as Vegeta was imagining. Hercules said, "These simple tricks won't affect me," said Hercules before turning his body and throwing Vegeta towards the ground. Vegeta managed to turn his body in the air and ended up balancing himself, landing on the ground in a way that was not so sudden, but sudden enough to leave some marks on the asphalt. Vegeta, when looking again at Hercules, saw that the evil Saiyan had one of his hands slowed down and several key spheres around him, and with an evil smile, Hercules lowered his arm, making all those key spheres go towards Vegeta, who, upon seeing the key spheres approaching, he began to fly and dodge all those attacks that destroyed everything they touched, generating several explosions throughout the city. Vegeta, while dodging all those key attacks, he ended up being cornered by several key spheres, and seeing this, Vegeta ended up activating his Ultra Ego, generating a wave of energy that made all the key spheres around him explode, generating a curtain of dust and smoke. From that curtain of dust and smoke, Vegeta came out at high speed, advancing towards Hercules, hitting him with a well-aimed punch that made the evil Saiyan give a big smile. But even with that punch, Hercules managed to react and performed a blow from top to bottom, hitting a knee to Vegeta's chin that sent the Saiyan flying towards the sky. But even with that blow, Vegeta gathered a large amount of energy in his hands and shot at Hercules, making the evil Saiyan hit the ground, where he ended up generating a huge crater because of Vegeta's blow. Hercules managed to quickly recover from that blow and stood up with an even bigger smile on his face and increased his power even further by taking on his evil Super Saiyan God form, which caused a huge tremor to happen in the city, which ended up having its buildings and structures destroyed with that earthquake generated by the elevation of the power of Hercules. Hercules, who was more excited than before, disappeared and suddenly reappeared in front of Vegeta, punching the Saiyan prince in the stomach, who spat out some saliva. Vegeta, who was more irritated, managed to get away from Hercules and then advanced towards him, and the two began hand-to-hand combat that was generating large impact waves that caused everything around to be destroyed by the impact waves generated. Hercules was managing to master that exchange of blows with Vegeta, where the Saiyan prince ended up receiving several blows in the process. At a certain point, Vegeta managed to make Hercules have an opening in his defense and tried to punch him, but Hercules held Vegeta's fist, and before he could think of anything, Vegeta felt something pierce his abdomen, and when he looked down, he saw that Hercules had created a blade of evil ki, and with that pierced the abdomen of the Saiyan prince, who ended up spitting blood. Hercules said, "Apparently you're not as strong as I imagined, Prince of Saiyans," said Hercules in an arrogant manner as he removed the key blade from Vegeta's abdomen. Then Hercules hit Vegeta with a very strong punch that made the Saiyan prince hit the ground, generating a trail of destruction. When Hercules saw Vegeta on the ground, the evil Saiyan raised his hand and created a gigantic sphere of evil ki and threw it towards Vegeta, but the ki sphere ended up being cut into millions of pieces, and when Hercules realized it, his mother had Excalibur in hands in front of Vegeta, protecting him from that attack. Vegeta said, "I thought you would leave me facing this guy for longer," Vegeta said as he stood up with some pain throughout his body, especially in his injured abdomen. Yamoshi said, "I'm sorry for the delay. I was recovering my energy so I could face my son Hercules with full strength. Since you're here, you're going to help me, aren't you?" Yamoshi asked Vegeta, who was now standing next to her. Vegeta said, "Your bastard son hurt mine, so obviously I'm going to fight him, and now that Excalibur is here, it will be easier to send Hercules to meet his father," said Vegeta to Yamoshi, who just nodded in agreement with the Prince of Saiyans. In the 7th universe. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely on planet Earth, it was possible to see that in one of the large cities that existed on planet Earth, there was almost nothing left, since most of the buildings had been torn down, and those that were still standing were full of cracks and broken glass everywhere. Amidst the wreckage and ruins of what was once a large, populated and lively city, it was possible to see that there were only a few injured people in the city, and they were trying to leave that place immediately. But among the beings that were in the city, it was possible to see Hercules, who was responsible for all that destruction and all the deaths that had occurred in the last few hours. Hercules had an arrogant look that was accompanied by an amused smile as he looked down, more precisely at his mother Yamoshi, and at the Saiyan Prince Vegeta, who was next to Yamoshi, who wielded Excalibur, the perfect weapon to defeat Hercules, as well as she had also been used to eliminate Yamoshi's ex-husband and Hercules' father. Hercules said, "I was already wondering where you were, Yamoshi. While I was recovering my strength and facing the prince of our race, were you also recovering your energy to face me? And I thought that the great Yamoshi, the goddess of destruction from the 7th universe, would be strong enough to deal with a threat in her own universe alone, but apparently you can't do anything alone and need the help of a prince to defeat me," said Hercules in an ironic way while looking at his mother and then at Vegeta, who was staring at him all the time. Yamoshi said, "You know we don't need to do this, my son. If you surrender and leave, this battle will not be necessary and none of us will have to lose our lives in vain," said Yamoshi, trying to convince her son not to start a battle after all. She didn't want to have to face her son, and this time Yamoshi knew that the battle would only end when one of them lost his life, something that Yamoshi wanted to avoid. Vegeta said, "Even if Hercules didn't want to fight at that moment, he will want to come back and take revenge on you, and I won't let your son go unharmed after what he did to my son," said Vegeta, looking seriously at Yamoshi, who returned the look with the same intensity. Yamoshi said, "Don't get involved in this, Vegeta. Hercules is my son, and I'm the one who will decide things here, not you." Yamoshi spoke authoritatively to Vegeta, who glared at her angrily. After all, Vegeta wanted to take revenge on Hercules because of his son Trunks, and Yamoshi wanted to avoid having to kill Hercules, who was her son. Hercules said, "Seriously, are you two really arguing over such a stupid thing? It's obvious that I won't leave this planet before I finish you, Yamoshi. Not only do I want to end your life, I also want to face Vegeta, and if I have to lose my life in the process, I will. I would much rather fight to the death than run away and leave my father without his revenge, so let's fight to the death, my dear mother," said Hercules before raising his energy and activating the full power of his corrupted Super Saiyan God form, which ended up causing the entire climate in the place to change completely, generating a lightning storm that began to destroy everything around. Vegeta said, "You already have your answer, Yamoshi. Hercules will not stop until you die, and I will not let him leave here alive, so that in the future he will try to take revenge on me and my family. So if you are not going to fight your son, don't stand in my way, because I will put an end to this worm's life," Vegeta said before taking to the skies and raising his energy, transforming into his true Super Saiyan God form, and this made the atmosphere even worse. Thanks to the total release of Hercules and Vegeta's powers, the climate of planet Earth was changed, and in several places around the world, thousands of climatic events ended up starting at the same time, and both Vegeta and Hercules had huge smiles on their faces as they both wanted to kill each other. Vegeta and Hercules stared at each other for a few seconds before disappearing and reappearing in front of each other, touching their fists, generating a large wave of impact. With the first shock of the blows from the two Saiyans, they both ended up moving away from each other, and soon after they advanced against each other again, starting a hand-to-hand combat, exchanging several blows. The two Saiyans at that moment were at the same level of power, or was that what Yamoshi was imagining it? She was just observing that fight while holding Excalibur tightly, not wanting to participate in that fight. After all, Yamoshi didn't want to eliminate his eldest son. Hercules faced Vegeta and moved away from him, creating two Keyblades in his arms, and seeing this, Vegeta ended up creating a Key Sword and advanced towards Hercules, who did the same thing. Vegeta and Hercules began a violent battle using their key weapons. Vegeta managed to make some cuts on Hercules' body. Some of these cuts ended up being superficial and others ended up hurting the evil Saiyan more, but Hercules wasn't that far behind since he was also managing to land several blows on Vegeta. Vegeta, in a quick and strong movement, ended up making a cut from top to bottom, but Hercules was able to hold back Vegeta's blow using his Keyblades. Vegeta, even using his strength, was not being able to break Hercules' Keyblades, and the evil Saiyan, seeing this, ended up making a key sphere below his foot and pointed it at Vegeta, generating an explosion that forced Vegeta to move away. And seeing an opportunity, Hercules rushed towards the Saiyan Prince and launched an attack that Vegeta tried to dodge, but unfortunately for the Saiyan Prince, Hercules' blow was too fast, and even though Vegeta deflected Hercules' ki blade, he ended up cutting Vegeta's eye, leaving a wound from bottom to top on Vegeta's right eye, who grunted in pain as he felt his eye being cut. Hercules, not wanting to give Vegeta time to react and recover, he advanced against Vegeta and began attacking the Prince of Saiyans with more intensity, and as he did not have his full vision, Vegeta was unable to react to most of the blows, and this left Vegeta with several injuries to his body, and as a result, a large part of his clothes were destroyed. To finish, Hercules ended up energizing his leg and then kicked Vegeta in the abdomen, making him vomit a lot of blood and fall to the ground. Hercules tried to advance towards Vegeta to eliminate the Prince of the Saiyans definitively, but the evil Saiyan ended up having to dodge a Keyblade that Yamoshi had fired using Excalibur. Yamoshi, who was just watching, finally decided to fight and advance towards his son, who gave an arrogant smile to his mother. Yamoshi and Hercules approached each other and began hand-to-hand combat using their weapons. Hercules was using his Keyblades and Yamoshi was using Excalibur. The battle between mother and son was intense, but Hercules realized that her blows were not intended to kill him, which was irritating Hercules, who increased the speed and power of his attacks, and Yamoshi was trying to fight against his duty to eliminate his firstborn son. In a moment of indecision, Yamoshi ended up opening her guard, and Hercules took advantage of this, attacking her with his Keyblades, making an X cut on his mother's chest, causing a good amount of blood to come out of her wound. Even though he was injured, Yamoshi lowered his sword with force to eliminate Hercules, but the evil Saiyan ended up disappearing and reappearing on top of Yamoshi, increasing the size of his Kai blades, and with that, Hercules performed a blow that severed Yamoshi's hand, which was holding the sword. Excalibur making the sword fall to the ground, and before Yamoshi did anything, she felt her neck being squeezed by Hercules. Hercules said, "It seems that you were not as strong as my father told me. There is a big difference between you and him. My father would have no mercy in eliminating anyone, not even if it were me. But you are so weak that you cannot eliminate the biggest threat in this universe, and that makes you very weak, and a woman as weak as you." "It couldn't be my mother," Hercules said while squeezing Yamoshi's neck, who was suffocating as her energy was being drained by Hercules. Hercules tightened his grip on Yamoshi's neck, who tried to resist. In her mind, several memories of the time when her son was younger flashed by, and she couldn't believe that such a pure child ended up turning into that monster in front of her. Suddenly, Hercules stopped feeling his arms, and when he saw his arms had been ripped off, and when he looked down, he saw a sword going through his chest, and when he looked back, he saw Vegeta with a serious look and an arrogant smile with Excalibur in his hands. Vegeta said, "You should have eliminated me as quickly as possible, because unlike your mother, I will have no mercy on you, so die at once, you insolent worm," said Vegeta before removing the sword from Hercules' chest, and then he performed a sequence of blows with extreme force, and all these blows ended up dividing Hercules into thousands of pieces, and after doing this, Vegeta destroyed everything that was left of Hercules with one key attack. After eliminating Hercules, the Saiyan Prince looked at Yamoshi, who had a very sad expression on his face for losing his firstborn son. Vegeta didn't say anything because he knew that losing a son wasn't easy. Even though Hercules had tried to kill his mother, the Saiyan Prince released Excalibur, letting the sword fall to the ground, and then Vegeta returned to his base form and left the place without saying a word, leaving Yamoshi alone with her sadness in that destroyed city. In the 7th universe. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely on a snowy mountain on planet Earth, it was possible to see Yamoshi sitting with a sad look on her face as she looked at the landscape of the snowy mountains. On Yamoshi's side, it was possible to see the sacred sword Excalibur that was embedded on a large rock next to Yamoshi. Yamoshi said, "It feels like now I've finally lost everything I ever had in my life in the past. I knew that I had already lost my husband and my son in the past, and it took me many years to get over all of that. But after so many years, Hiroki and Hercules returned, and even though I saw how bad they had become and knew the atrocities that they committed just to become strong, I still loved each of them, even though I said I didn't feel anything for any of them. I've never been a good liar to other people and much less to myself, but I still want to believe that all of this was the best thing I could have done. All of this was for the good of the 7th universe and not for my own good," said Yamoshi to herself as she looked at the landscape in front of her and remembered the past when she was happy with Hiroki and Hercules. Yamoshi said, "I remember back then during the cold times we liked to go to that snowy planet near the Saiyan planet. I always like to enjoy the landscapes of the places I went, especially cold places like this, and I remember that at that time Hiroki would cling to me to keep me warm. I didn't know if he did that so I wouldn't feel cold, or if he did that just to keep grabbing me. That pervert never changed regardless of the time, Yamoshi said, giving a short laugh as she remembered the time when she and Hiroki were a happy couple, or at least appeared to be. These memories gave her a certain happiness, Yamoshi said. I remember that after giving birth to Hercules, we started taking weekly trips to those beaches that were on the Saiyan planet. Since Hercules always liked going to warm places with a view of the sea, I didn't like it very much, since he always ate sand or drowned in the sea, and idiot Hiroki always laughed at these situations that drove me crazy, said Yamoshi, remembering the past where even though she was stressed with Hiroki, Yamoshi was happy since her family was incredible to her. Yamoshi said, that time won't come back no matter how much I want it to, but at least I have my son Yamato. He and I don't spend much time together because I have to work as a goddess of destruction, so I don't have that much time to take care of him or create happy moments with my son Yamato. In reality, maybe Yamato doesn't like me, since the purpose of his birth was precisely to resolve my old issues. It's kind of ironic the fact that I had a son to be able to deal with my eldest son, and now maybe I don't have either of them because the eldest is dead and the youngest must hate me. Deep down, Yamato must not like the mother who had to drug her father Goku so that he could be born, said Yamoshi in a sad tone to himself. While the image of his two children came to his mind, Yamoshi thought he had already lost his two children for different reasons. Yamoshi remained in that place for long minutes while she let her mind wander, remembering all the memories that made her happy, some that she wished she had again, but wouldn't have since Hiroki and Hercules were dead, and even if they were alive, she wouldn't be able to have those moments, happy with any of them. After some time, Yamato ended up appearing behind his mother, who was so immersed in her memories that she didn't even notice the presence of her youngest son. Yamato thought, didn't my mother notice my presence? Even when I try to hide my presence, she manages to notice, and every time my mother notices my presence, she comes and hugs me, but this time she didn't do that. Dad told me that Mom's eldest son ended up being killed by Vegeta, and her ex-husband ended up being killed by Dad, so my mother must be sad. In reality, she is in a mix of sadness and happiness. Sadness because of the deaths of those she loved, and happiness because of the memories she had with Hiroki and Hercules. Yamato thought to himself as he looked at his mother and felt that Yamoshi was sad and happy at the same time. Yamato sighed and decided to sit on a rock and watch his mother, and when Yamoshi noticed that her son was there, he would try to comfort her or at least stay by his mother's side in that moment of sadness. On the shores of the 7th universe. Currently on the shores of the 7th universe, it was possible to see thousands of spaceships roaming the planets, conquering many and destroying some other planets. And in the largest of the spaceships was the much-feared Emperor. Frieza was in his base form, sitting in his chair facing a large screen which was showing the last battles against Hercules, something the Emperor loved to see as his main rivals were being injured by members of their own race. Frieza said, "These last battles were really interesting to see. In reality, I would say it was a pleasant program to watch. After all, I love seeing these worms facing each other, and seeing Goku and Vegeta being humiliated and defeated is a very fun and interesting to watch," Frieza said while looking at Goku and Vegeta's last battles, where the two Saiyans ended up being defeated and humiliated. Frieza said, "It was a wise decision to give some information to Hiroki and Hercules. Thanks to both of them, I had a good time laughing at Goku and Vegeta's misfortunes," Frieza said before bursting into a big laugh while the screen in front of him showed images of Goku and Vegeta defeated on the ground, something that always made the Emperor laugh. Frieza said, "I have to admit that I almost went after those two Saiyans to defeat them and ensure that Goku and Vegeta didn't become stronger than me, but giving tips to those two ancient Saiyans was the better decision. Thanks to that, I was able to have a good time, and not only that, but I was able to focus on my training to become stronger. At the moment, I don't know if I'm capable of facing Goku or Vegeta if they use that new Super Saiyan God transformation of theirs, not while I not fully master the power of my corrupted black form," Frieza said to himself as he looked at his hand and transformed into his black form, easily demonstrating his mastery over this form. But soon Frieza returned to his base form. Counselor spoke, "Master Frieza, if you allow me, I have an idea to give you more time to evolve before your future battle against the Saiyans known as Son Goku and Vegeta," said Frieza's advisor, attracting the attention of the Emperor, who was curious about what her idea would be. Frieza said, "An idea? You always give me good ideas or advice when I can't find a solution to my current problems, so what would be your idea to help me evolve? Frieza asked, turning to his advisor and giving her his full attention, something very rare to happen. Counselor said, in the past, you ended up being eliminated by the Saiyan known as Trunks, and then ended up being revived by the Dragon Balls, or at least its pieces, since you ended up being divided into thousands of pieces and then disintegrated by a key attack made by that Saiyan. The counselor said, remembering the time that Frieza was killed, and this made the Emperor angry, as Frieza did not like to remember his past defeats. Frieza said, how about getting straight to the point? You should already know that I don't like it when people remind me of my old defeats, Frieza said with a calm expression and a smile on his face, but with a large nerve on his forehead showing that he was irritated. Counselor said, you could do the same thing, go after the Dragon Balls and bring one of these two Saiyans or even both of them back to life, or at least pieces of them. You could bring them back to life to face Son Goku and Vegeta. Hiroki and Hercules would buy more time for you to evolve and adapt to your own power, said the counselor, leaving Frieza surprised by the idea, which was actually very good. Frieza said, that's a great idea. Those two are strong enough to buy time for me, especially Hiroki, who I'm sure didn't use his full power against Son Goku. They could keep those two busy enough for me to get stronger and be able to put a definitive end to those two worms once and for all, Frieza said excitedly, and happy with the idea that his advisor gave. She gave a slight smile and bowed as a sign of respect to the Emperor. In the 7th universe. Currently, in the 7th universe, more precisely on the top of a mountain surrounded by several other snowy mountains, it was possible to see Yamoshi looking at the horizon, watching the sunset that illuminated the top of the mountains. Soon the sun disappeared and the night began. Yamoshi at all times was focused on her happy memories with her old family while humming a song with her eyes closed. Yamoshi until that moment did not notice the presence of her youngest son, who was still sitting on a rock practically motionless while looking at his mother. Yamato had already been in that place for a few hours. A thin layer of snow had accumulated on his body as he was practically motionless looking at his mother. The snow was also covering Excalibur next to Yamoshi, who had his body full of snow. She didn't even care about it. Yamato thought, I've been here for a few hours and my mother still hasn't noticed my presence. I think she is so focused on her memories that she didn't notice anything around her, so much so that she didn't even bother removing the snow from her body. And even though my mother likes snow, she said she doesn't like having snow on her body, Yamato thought while looking at his mother, who was still humming a new song that was calmer and lighter than the previous one. This song Yamato recognized immediately. Yamato thought, this song is the same song she hummed to me when I was sleepy or sad for some reason. Apparently my mother also sang this song to Hercules, or at least she already knew this song from the time she was still in a relationship with that Hiroki guy, Yamato thought with a short smile, and then gave a small sigh. Yamato kept hearing his mother humming, and at some point he started doing the same thing, following his mother's rhythm, which made Yamoshi notice things around him, including his son, who was now humming with his eyes closed, letting himself be carried away by the symphony. Yamoshi said, Yamato? What are you doing here, my son? How long have you been here? Yamoshi asked. Yamato, upon noticing the presence of his youngest son, who, upon hearing his mother's voice, ended up opening his eyes and looking at her. Yamato said, I came to look for you, but you were looking at the horizon, so I decided not to disturb you and sat here. I think I've been here for a few hours, just like you. Yamato said, giving a short laugh as he moved after a few hours, making some of the snow above his body fall to the ground. Yamoshi said, hours? But I got here just a few minutes ago, said Yamoshi before looking around and realizing that a good amount of time had already passed since the moment she arrived at that mountain. When Yamoshi arrived, it was still daylight, and now it was night. Yamato said, I think you didn't notice the time passing. It's early evening now, and when I arrived it was still daylight, and you didn't have as much snow on your body as you do now, said Yamato before laughing while looking at his mother, who tilted her head to the side, making the snow in her hair fall, something that made the goddess of destruction laugh too. Yamoshi said, yeah, apparently I ended up getting carried away by my memories and ended up forgetting everything around me, and I didn't even realize that you were here watching me, Yamoshi said, laughing, embarrassed at the current situation. Yamoshi said, why did you come after me? I thought that at that moment you would be together with your father and his family. Every time they manage to get out of a risky situation, whether for the planet or for the lives of Goku's family members, they throw a party prepared by that human named Bulma. Yamoshi asked his son, who got up from that rock and got a little closer to his mother. Yamato said, I was at Dad's house, but I ended up feeling your aura and that you were feeling a mixture of sadness, anger, and some other bad feelings, so I decided to come after you to see how you were and if I could help you in some way. Yamato said to his mother, who was not very surprised by that. After all, her son had great potential for evolution. Yamoshi said, I would say I'm surprised, but I'm not that surprised. After all, you can learn things very quickly, and it looks like your skills have evolved a lot, said Yamoshi while looking at her youngest son, who just smiled at her. Yamato said, I learned from the best. Do you already know what you're going to do? Like, currently there is nothing going on in the 7th universe that needs you specifically, so you can take a vacation and enjoy it a little. After all, you were very busy recently because of your duties as goddess of destruction of the 7th universe, said Yamato, curious about what his mother would do now. After all, she was not in a position to continue acting as the goddess of destruction of the 7th universe, at least not yet. Yamoshi said, honestly, I don't know, my son. I just know that this work as goddess of destruction of the 7th universe is already making me angry. I have to go around destroying planets and entire civilizations. I have to fight threats to the 7th universe. I have to follow some orders from Daishinkan and Zeno, and the worst of all is that I have to stay away from the only family I have left, said Yamoshi, approaching his son and stroking his hair while removing the remaining snow. Yamato said, then why are you still working as the goddess of destruction of the 7th universe? You are strong, but there are others who can take your position like Dad, Uncle Vegeta, or even Beerus, who was once a god of destruction, and even though he wasn't one of the best, he still did his job, or at least tried. Yamato asked, looking at her mother while giving some ideas about who could take her place as the destroyer or destroyer of the 7th universe. Yamoshi said, Beerus no longer wants to be the god of destruction of the 7th universe, and he said so himself. In fact, he thanked me for finally taking the burden of being a destroyer off him, so Beerus will not want to return to his old role as destroyer. Vegeta has his family and doesn't want to be away from them. Maybe in the future he can accept it, but not at this moment. Goku wouldn't be good at being a destroyer, but with Whis' help, he would be a good god of destruction since he's always looking for battles, and that would be a good way to convince him to accept the position of god of destruction. Goku doesn't spend much time with his family since he is always training, and if something were to happen, Goku could stay here on planet Earth until he needs to act like a god of destruction. So at the moment, his father is the one who is most prepared to the position, said Yamoshi, analyzing all possible candidates for the position of destroyer of the 7th universe. Yamato said, what are we going to do after you give your position as goddess of destruction to someone else? Yamato asked, leaving his mother surprised by his speech. Yamoshi said, what are we going to do? What do you mean by that, my son? Yamoshi asked her son, who nodded positively at her. Yamato said, yes, when you give the position of goddess of destruction to someone else, you will not stay on planet Earth, and I know that. So you will probably go on some trips or live on another planet and I will go with you. After all, we are family and I will not leave you alone in this situation, my mother, Yamato said before giving a smile to his mother, who ended up smiling at him. Yamoshi said, I will give my position as goddess of destruction to your father, and Goku will probably accept if I persuade him a little. I will just need to say that he will face strong beings from other planets or other universes, and his father will accept it immediately. After that, I think we'll go to planet Namekusenden to live in the village I lived in for years, and there we can have a good life, and who knows, maybe you'll meet a woman to form a future family with, said Yamoshi to his son, who ended up blushing. Yamato said, Mom, I'm still too young to think about starting a family, Yamato said, embarrassed by his mother's words, who just laughed. Yamoshi said, I know that, and I hope it takes a long time for you to grow up so I can take care of you, but I can tell you that when you're older, I'll want lots of grandchildren, said Yamoshi, making his son even more embarrassed than before, which made Yamoshi laugh even more. But Yamato was happy to see that his mother was more excited than before. With that, we will end today's video. If you want to see the continuation of this incredible story, leave a lot of likes on the video and comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So see you another day, guys.